guys, this is Milana Lishinsky. I feel like there is a deja vu moment because I've done it before today, a few hours ago, and unfortunately the video somehow disappeared. But that's okay because we are doing this again, and actually I'm going to go ahead and start a backup recording just in case, so I don't have to do this for the third time. And let's see, I'm going to pin this post to the top of the board, and hopefully it will work this time. The beauty of technology. Yes, here we are. So now if you have watched this three types of content that you could create to grow your business, to sell your products and programs, this is a training for you. In fact, I'm just going to put that on the screen right now. 3 types of content to create to sell your products and programs. Because we are all trained to create content, valuable, free, content-rich materials just to give away and to be generous. And sometimes it brings clients and other times it doesn't. So what do we do? What kind of content do we create? And if you are watching this live, please give me a thumbs up so I know you're here and you are watching. And just say hello if you're watching this. And if you already seen this training a few hours ago, before Facebook decided to crash on my computer and eat the video, I would like to hear from you as well. But today we're talking about content. So here it is, my little classroom. I got my whiteboard. Hi, Jamie. I didn't see you. I don't think I saw you the other time, but welcome. Good to see you here. So we're going to be talking about the content and some of the leftovers from the training before you were seeing here. And I'm going to explain what this is all about. But a lot of times we are told to do some free content. And that is the way that we bring people into our world, into our programs. But what happens when you keep creating free content and it doesn't work? And you don't have clients as a result of free content creation, right? What do you do in that case? What happens then? That's what I want to talk about. And also, how do you create content that does attract clients, that does enroll people into your programs and sell your products? Now, I learned my lesson a few hours ago that standing up is actually not very healthy for my body. So I'm going to sit and stand up sporadically to demonstrate a few things. But let me move this a little closer. Hopefully I'm still in your view, which is great. So yeah, and let me see, make sure that the glare is not in the way. And camera is looking for something to focus on, but hopefully this will work. All right, so yeah, so you have free content and you have paid content. And what we usually expect is that free content, we're told to create free content, will get people into our programs and our products and our events. And when that doesn't happen, the leap doesn't happen, we are confused and disappointed and feeling frustrated because we're told that free content should get us clients and people who are interested, right? But there's one more layer of content that I call conditioning content. And it kind of started disappearing here off the board. So I'm just going to outline it one more time so you can see it a little better. So what is conditioning content? Well, conditioning content is something that you create that bridges the gap between free content and paid content. So let's talk about what each means. And the reason this training even came about is because there was a time when I was doing a lot of product launches, and I always had to determine where should I share which piece of content. Is it the free content? Should it go into my paid product, or is it something else? And what is that something else, right? So I had to determine that. And for those of you who don't know me, who haven't really followed me, I started my business back in 2001 with my very first ebook. Hey, Sheila. Well, I'm glad to hear that. And Linda, hello. It's great to see you guys here. Yeah, and so the amount of launches that I was doing for many years led me to question, why does some free content convert people and other content just gets the applause? Have you ever spoken on stage? Hey, Jamie, you're falling asleep, so you have to watch it in replay. All right, maybe tomorrow. Okay, it's midnight. Oh no, are you in Scotland, right? I think this is something you totally need to watch. Absolutely. Haley, you're back. Good to see you. And Lee, I saw you in the other training, so you're gonna watch me do an instant replay. I have no idea how actors do this over and over and over again with the same passion. So this training is probably gonna be a little different from the one I did a few hours ago, but maybe it's going to be even better. So we'll see. Hi, Abby, and hello, Andy. Good to see you guys. So how do you determine what content is going to get you clients? And here's the trick. So free content, and I'm going to use my cheat sheet. I'm going to post it for you a little later after the training is complete. But I'm going to use this for now, so don't forget to share some of the things. But the free content, its purpose is to build traffic, to create visibility, and to build authority. When people are done consuming your free content, what's going to happen is, or what you want them to happen, is to say, I believe you. I like you, I know you, I trust you, I believe you. So it's really authority building. And of course, if you are submitting your content to other platforms like article publishing, YouTube videos, if you're doing a blog, or if you're doing podcast interviews, if you are posting your content on social media, then what's going to happen is people are going to come to you as traffic to wherever you're inviting them to come, right? So this is the free content. And then the kind of things that you're talking about in your free content are related topics. They're not topics that you are directly teaching in your paid product. Not necessarily, it doesn't have to be. And I'll give you some examples to make it more real for you. But you can share things like personal stories, commentary on something that's related, that's happening right now, that's connected to your topic, top of mind topics. This is for me a top of mind topics. It just came into my mind to share this conversation, and I just created a training, and it's free training. So you are currently in my free training, right? This is not conditioning content, and I'll share with you why in a moment. So anything like big picture topics, little standalone topics that you could share, controversial topics. So anything like that is free content. Now, conditioning content, this is where you may want to take notes, or you may want to just rely on the cheat sheet I'll share later. But the conditioning content, the goal is for you, if here your goal is to build authority, conditioning content is its goal to change beliefs, to change people's beliefs, to educate and to indoctrinate. I wanted to say that this is an indoctrination content, but that word has a bit of a negative connotation. So I'm going with conditioning. But you're essentially indoctrinating people in what you believe in, right? You want people to buy into your big idea. You want to inspire a different way of looking at something, right? When people are done consuming your conditioning content, what you want them to say is, I agree with you, and I'm interested in what's coming next. So that's your goal for conditioning content, right? Now you can do this in a format like a webinar. I would do this in a lot of my pre-launch videos, where I would share a lot of different things that, that would build up my big idea, or to my big idea, build up the interest and desire for something that I'm selling. So the goal of the conditioning content is to be very strategic. This is why free content does not sell your program, because you haven't been strategic about it. And conditioning content conditions people to become not only interested, but to actually make a commitment to invest in your product. And Joan, I see your comment here. Hi, Milan, I'm enjoying hearing you. Is a free training better or a download? I'm assuming you're asking if a live training is better than a download. There are multiple ways to answer this question. So in my experience and what I'm hearing from other people is the download is a great way to get people on your list. So it increases conversion on your pages. But a lot of times nobody will even open the downloadable file. People will more likely watch your video or participate in your free training. That's what I've experienced over the last 16 years, is that people will request a free report, but they will not read it. They will buy your book, but they will not read it. So it's always better to actually give it away, something to download, but then also teach it in another format, something that's allowing you to communicate, to engage people, right? And, as the creator of Simplicity Circle, I believe that you need to deliver your content in whichever way feels simple to you, in whichever way feels more effortless and most importantly, enjoyable to you, right? All right, so conditioning content could look like a video. Tools and quizzes make a great conditioning content. I have some quizzes that when you take, you suddenly start seeing that, oh, my business is not simple. I have a lot of complexity in my business. And so that kind of starts getting you to think into the direction that I want you to think. Not that I'm manipulating you, but I'm making something visible. I'm making you aware of something that you haven't been aware. I'm putting something in front of you that maybe you haven't thought of about before. And so, yeah, that's conditioning. Your sales videos, your sales pages, your live presentations from stage, that is your opportunity to connect people to your big idea so that they can buy into your big idea and then they buy into your product. I believe somebody said that in my previous training earlier today, which by the way crashed in case you just joined me and you were confused why I'm doing this training again. But the person said, buy into me, buy into my idea, buy my product. And I love that. So buy me, buy my idea, buy my product. I thought that was a brilliant way of positioning that. And for simplicity's sake, it makes perfect sense. So now what kind of content, what are you talking about? Anita is asking, what did you say we want them to say after conditioning content? Oh, yes. So after they consume your conditioning content, what they want to say, what you want them to say is, I agree with you. And I'm interested in what's next, right? So that's kind of a cool way to discern or to determine what content goes here, right? And then all the content you share in your conditioning piece has to tie somehow to the big idea of the product. When I give you examples, it'll make a little bit more sense, but it has to strategically connect to your product. For example, your before and after stories, how you discovered your solution, why alternatives don't work as well, right? How it changed your life. Any stories or examples? Maybe you even give some steps for getting started. And again, if I'm speaking too fast, don't worry about it. This is the cheat sheet that I'm going to share right after the training is over. So don't worry, just focus on understanding this. And hope my goal is to simplify this for you, of course, so that you can see that there are 3 types of content. And to determine what goes into the paid content means that you now know what needs to happen in the conditioning content, right? Here you can also share steps for getting started so that people can start imagining what it would be like to work with you in your program, what kind of things they would need to do, right? You want to share any content here, and this is very important. I think that is what I do that gets a lot of people suddenly inspired to join my product, my program, or buy my product. I like to create a lot of clarity, focus, and simplicity around whatever topic I'm teaching, right? So your goal is to share the content that will help people see something more clearly and say, oh, that's been the missing ingredient from what I've been trying to do, right? You want to be the missing ingredient. You want them to see that your big idea is the missing ingredient. And again, I'll show you how that works in an example. This is where you can also share some principles, ideas, mindsets. This is where it's also important for you to take a stand for something. When I was working on the webinar for Simplicity Blueprint a few months ago, I was very clear that I am taking a stand for simplicity. I was very much aware that a lot of people don't want a big and complicated business. They want to make money, they want to grow, but they don't want they don't want their business to affect their independence and their peace of mind, their lifestyle, right? So I took a stand for simplicity, that it's okay to want a simple business. It's okay not only because it'll be simpler for you to run it, but also a simple business grows faster with more ease, and you're having a ton more fun running a business like that. And also you get to make more money because everything you do is simple to you. And so that is what I really took a stand for people in terms of simplicity. This is where you're also answering biggest questions and biggest buying objections. So if you're creating any kind of webinars or sales letters, sales videos, any kind of Q&A calls that follow, the sequence of maybe a product launch, that is where you share this kind of information, right? Does this make sense? Give me a thumbs up or send me a heart or something that I know it makes sense for you. And I have no idea if it's coming or not. I can't tell. Well, something is coming, but I just can't see it. I'm going to assume that you are getting this and this makes sense. So, yeah, and then the paid content. This is where people say, I am ready to make a commitment. Just give me the steps, right? I am ready to make a commitment. Thank you, Anita. Thanks for the thumbs up. I am ready to make a commitment, and it makes total sense. And at that point is when people actually are ready to invest. That's when they are taking their credit card out. And what do you give them? What kind of content goes here? That's your system. It's your system that delivers a specific tangible outcome. Steve Garvin, you're back. You're here again watching my encore. I saw you in the first training. That's very cool. Thank you. Crystal clear, Steve says. That's wonderful. And the kind of things that you'd be sharing within your training, these are the things that will allow people to implement. So these are your modules, your steps, your building blocks, your methods, exercises, workbooks, anything that you feel is going to help people achieve the result that you promised them, right? Let me give you some examples because I think that's going to make it real and really connect with your business. And if you have a topic that you'd like to play with, we can lay it out for you in these 3 columns. In fact, that's what I recommend you do. If you're anything like a lot of people in the coach, author, speaker industry, you probably have a lot of content that you created. Your blog, your videos, workbooks, exercises, articles, webinars, teleclasses, anything that you have. And so it may be very confusing where everything should go, right? And this tool should help you really lay it out in a way that allows you to clearly see, okay, this is where I want people to say, I believe you because I like, know, and trust you. It's the authority builder. Here, people say, I believe you and I agree with you. And I'm interested in hearing what's next. And here the content goes that allows people to actually implement. What do they need to do to actually achieve the result that you promise? And before I give you examples, let me just say that here This is the place where you have to sell your big idea. I mentioned previously that Jim Neiswanger really calls it the big decision. People need to make a decision. They need to buy into the idea. So if you don't believe that simplicity is the way to be in your business, there's no way you're going to invest in my simplicity program, because you didn't buy into the simplicity way of being in your business, in the simplicity way of growing your business. So if you didn't buy into simplicity entrepreneurship as a big idea, then you're not going to buy my program. Let me give you a few more examples. Let's say that you are a nutritionist who specializes in vegan lifestyle. And let's say that here you're selling a program where you teach people the 5 steps to becoming a vegan. It's your 5-week program, okay? So what must happen here, sorry, I got distracted. The comments here in Be Live come right onto my screen, and I'm reading it instead of reading what I'm supposed to be looking at. So what must happen here, if the nutritionist wants to sell 5 steps to becoming a vegan, here the nutritionist must sell the idea that vegan lifestyle is the best lifestyle on the planet, that it's the healthiest lifestyle. So the nutritionist must sell the idea of veganism, right? Now, what about free content? What does the nutritionist publish or share in terms of free content? Well, they could talk about things like healthy lifestyle, healthy choices, healthy habits, how to shop at your local grocery store, how to read the label and make sure you're not getting any kind of crappy ingredients, right? So related topics, but not necessarily directly about veganism being the ultimate lifestyle, right? You could, but this is where it's most important, right? You could absolutely talk about vegan choices and the history of veganism. You could talk about those related topics, but you're not really selling necessarily the idea that this is the best way to live. Let me give you another example. Does this make sense, by the way? Give me a yes so I know it's making sense. We have a lot of people watching, and I just want to make sure it's making sense. The teacher in me is wanting to just sit and wait for feedback. Okay, so while I'm getting a yes or a no, I'm going to give you another example. Let's say that you are a business coach and you are selling a product called 6 Steps to Creating Your Big Vision, the Big Vision System, right? What might you share here? Anita is having some difficulty hearing me. Let me see if I can actually move the microphone a little bit over here. You can actually see my spit filter, I call it. My pop filter. Dasha, you're using some Russian letters. I'm not sure if I can read that. And Steve, are you okay? So I'm getting some yeses. Oh, you know what? I completely forgot there's a bit of a delay. That's what's happening. So Anita, tell me if it's consistent or if it's coming and going. We had a few issues a few hours ago, but most people were doing. I think it's the connectivity. Unfortunately, that's not something I have control over, but I appreciate you hanging in there, and hopefully you get enough words to make sense of what I'm saying. And if not, you can always watch this again. So if you are a business coach and you are selling a system on creating your big vision, what might you teach in your conditioning? There's only one thing you need to teach, or I should say there's only one thing you need to prove or make a case for, and that is that having a big idea is absolutely or having a big vision is absolutely critical for having a successful business. If you cannot sell that idea, thank you, Dasha. Seems to be working well for most, which is great news. So if you cannot sell this idea that without a big vision, you cannot build a successful business, then people will not buy your product because you haven't sold them into this decision. Yes, thank you, Joan. You probably said that before I said that. Very clever. Why a big vision is important. And so for a business coach who sells a program around, I wonder if it's happening right here. All right. So for a business coach who sells a big vision system, what might this coach be teaching here in the free content? Really anything around business. Marketing topics, team building, business strategy, how to grow a business, how to start a business, business challenges, things like that, right? So that's kind of my example. If you want to run your topic, and Linda is suggesting that I need a close out of anything else in the web. Maybe that is the problem. Maybe it's not. I don't know. A few hours ago, the thunderstorm was kind of kicking me my behind here and kicked out completely when I was finished. So hopefully it's just a temporary issue. But does that make sense? And is there a topic that you would like to play with and see what happens with your topic? So I recommend that you start with the end in mind. So, decide what you're selling and what the big idea around, what's the big idea in your training or in your product or in your coaching, in your system. And then in your conditioning content, what you're doing is then determining how to support that big idea, right? Okay. And then here you can really teach anything. You can share any content. I was given an example. I want to give it to you here. Nicole Holland is somebody that I'm learning a lot from about podcasting. And when I first started working with her, I said, okay, so here are the questions I want them to ask me on a podcast. And she looked at that and said, no, scratch that. We're not doing that. And I said, what do you mean? Because in my head, I'm so used to creating conditioning content, whether it's subconscious or just a habit, right? That I immediately consider that a podcast interview is a place for me to condition people to get them to buy into my simplicity entrepreneurship ideas. And she said, no, that's not the right place to do it. The right kind of things that you want to do in the podcast is to get people to know, like, and trust you. And I had this light bulb appear over my head, and that made total sense because that a podcast is a fun entertainment medium, right? People just want to hear some fun stories, some interesting stories about my life, about how I came from Ukraine and how I learned English and how I couldn't find a job and then I switched my careers and how I left my business last year and why I didn't like working in that business. So all of those things, right? That's what people want to know. That's my free content. So I'm not conditioning anybody around anything. All I'm doing is getting people to know, like, and trust me, because trust is everything. And the more I've been in business, the more I see that especially in this crowded marketplace when everybody's trying to sell you something, who are you going to buy from? Probably from a person that you already have a relationship with, even if it's a virtual relationship. And I know that we just met, but Linda, thank you so much for stopping by my group and here, attending this training. And Lee, you've been very supportive. And Joan, I've seen your name over and over again. And Anita, I saw you being passionate about this topic from the other group. And Dasha, thank you so much for visiting here. So Steve Garvin, I've been connecting with you for quite a bit of time. And who else is here? Andy, I've known you probably the longest here. And Abby, my client, is here as well. And Sheila, we're going to do our Facebook Live around telesummits. And Jamie, you've been very supportive throughout this. And so I feel like I already know you guys, even though it's a virtual relationship. And I also hope to meet you someday because that would be really cool. So let's take our relationship to the next level. At some point later this year. I'll tell you how we can do that. All right, so I see some questions and see some examples that people are wanting to explore. Joan says, I'm a web developer and I would like to sell more website packages. So will my conditioning be the importance of mobile websites that are maintained? So if that's a great question, Joan. So if you are saying to me that mobile websites are very important for your success online with websites, then I'm going to expect that the program or the service that you're selling is going to be that you create my mobile website. Yes. So here you would be indoctrinating people or conditioning them in this idea that in order for people to be successful online with a website, in 2017, they need to be mobile ready. And then you are going to help them make it happen. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Joan. Joan says, would be honored to meet you. And let's see. Somebody else showed a few examples. Okay, Anita says, I want to sell my 8-week program for going sugar-free. Well, it's kind of obvious, right? Why the heck should I go sugar-free for 8 weeks? Why do I have to subject myself to that torture? You better sell this big idea in a way that makes me totally convinced and inspired and seeing things differently, because everybody knows that sugar is bad for you, right? The question is, what can you say to make people see differently? What is your big idea? You know, if you look at everybody who is saying that sugar is bad for you, what can you say that's different, that's fresh, that's a little innovative, that's a different way to look at sugar-free lifestyle? Or, I mean, 8 weeks would be essentially, did you say 8 weeks? Oh gosh, 8 weeks. I just want to die hearing that. I'm sorry. I love sugar. That is probably one of my worst weaknesses that I will confess on live TV here. So for me to go 8 weeks sugar-free, I need to be so committed. I need to be so convinced. And maybe you have a way of doing something different. So I'm just thinking top of my head, Anita. The first thing I'm going to hear when you tell me that I need to go sugar-free for 8 weeks is like, not happening, not possible. But then maybe you can find a way to make it easier. And you can say your big idea might be that the reason that people cannot go without sugar is this. And then suddenly it makes more sense. And I just saw a comment from you. I want to work with women who have just been diagnosed with diabetes. Well, that would be a big reason, absolutely. So see, that's an internal reason now, right? And so now you have to give them a big idea around, yes, the stress-free way to go sugar-free. Yeah, I would love to know that. So that's your solution. What's the big idea behind stress-free? How are you going to make it stress-free? Maybe it's about replacing sugar with something else. Maybe that's your big idea. So play with that. Think about those kind of things for sure. Steve says, I'm going to show this here. I'm working on the language of this. My focus is helping entrepreneurs clearly communicate the value of the lesson they've learned through the fire of adversity so they can create a successful business. Yeah. So are you asking if this is a big idea or if this is a pitch? Tell me what you want to know about this, Steve. Let's see if anybody else is asking. Joan, a comment for Anita, talk about substitutes to sugar like applesauce in recipes. Joan, can I put sugar, can I put applesauce in my chocolate? Because I cannot live without chocolate. And that, last time I checked, that's sugar. Oops. All kidding aside, the goal is for you to really make a good case. You pretend that you are a trial lawyer and you have to make a good case to free your client. Or, you know, it's like writing a thesis or paper when you have a thesis at the top and then you have to prove it. You know, use 3 points to make the case, to prove it. Some other examples that I can think of when I was when I was creating a program on membership websites. So that was my program, create your own coaching membership program. The idea that I had to take a stand for and that I had to sort of change your belief about is that a membership program does not have to be an ongoing forever in order for you to be successful with it. The way I did it is by using statistics. Basically, I pulled out statistics from my own membership sites. And what I saw was that an average member stays in my membership site for about 4 months, and then they unsubscribe. And that statistic is different for everybody. Some people stayed for 12 months. Other people stayed for 2 years. Some people would sign up and then leave within a month. And so the average statistic shows 4 months. And so I use that to back up the case that most people do not stay in your membership site longer than, say, 6 months anyway. So why not create a membership program that's only 6 months, right? So that was my big idea. And that's how I got people into a program that was teaching how to create a finite membership program if you're a coach. And that worked very well because a lot of the programs that I've put out into the world are exactly in that format, a 3-month coaching program, a 6-month coaching program, and that would be based on membership concept. All right. At this point, I feel like the line is very blurry between what a membership program is or a group coaching program is or a coaching club or a community. With Facebook especially, it's become very blurry. But that was the idea. Oh, and what I didn't finish saying, so membership sites, membership program here, why a membership program doesn't need to be an ongoing. And here I was teaching things like recurring revenue, how to generate income as a coach, how to leverage yourself, right? So I was kind of traveling around the topic of memberships, but not necessarily talking about memberships just yet. Steve says, I'm wondering how to walk through the content process, free, conditioning, and paid. My focus is helping entrepreneurs clearly communicate the value. So I don't quite understand what you're selling, Steve. If you tell me what you're selling, then we can use that as a starting point to decide on how to condition people, right? Tell me what you're selling and what the big idea is behind it. The big idea is such a cool thing. It supercharges your entire marketing, whether you're launching or teaching or creating content. Without a big idea, you can't really move because it's not clear what you stand for. And therefore, it's very difficult to figure out what you're trying to prove, right? Like, what are you looking to achieve? So the big idea, and I'm selling the idea of the big idea. That's why in my Simplicity program, one of the first things we do is we really figure out what your big idea is for your entire business or for your particular program. Because if you don't have a big idea, it's very difficult to market it. It's very difficult to position it. And most importantly, it's very difficult to make it stand out. Because, if you are a web designer, somebody said that they're a web developer. Okay, Joan said that she's a web developer. So there are millions of web developers if you include people from other countries, right? So what would make you different? Your big idea. And that's really what we are working on. And then, so I'm kind of selling you the idea that you need a big idea. I'm conditioning you in the idea that you need a big idea. And then my training delivers that as part of it. All right. Let's see. Any other questions or comments that I cannot see here? Aha, you got an aha. I like that, Joan. Thank you. So that's kind of what I wanted to share. I'm just trying to think if there's anything that I left out that I shared earlier, a few hours before. Yeah, this turned out to be a very different training. Well, we have different participants. I have a different energy in the evening because it's almost 7 p.m. here on the East Coast. And I have different ideas that are coming to mind now that I have delivered this training before. So this is really interesting. Oh, the one thing that I didn't address is how do you come up with topics for your free content? The way you come up with the content is you look at your target audience and you determine what is important to them around your topic. The example I was given earlier was that, let's say your target audience are startup business owners. They're startups, right? So anything that you feel that startup businesses need to learn about. And I'm going to share the circle thing in a moment. And that reminded me. And thank you, Joan. So the target audience of startups might be interested in things like, finding the money to start a business, building a dream team, right? Like anything that startup businesses are concerned about. And so this circle thing, what I've done here is I showed you that there are 3 circles of content. In the center, it says core. That's your core content, and that's what you that's what you talk about in your paid product, right? You're directly looking into the core, into the center. Like for me, it was the membership sites or simplicity entrepreneurship model, right? And then outside circle is your conditioning content. This is where you are building up the idea that allows people to say, I agree with you and I'm interested in what's next. And then the third circle, the outer circle, that's your free content. This is where all your topics are coming in, how to build a dream team, how to stay focused as you building up a new business, how to find a mentor, all kinds of things that people in your target audience are interested in, right? Thank you, Anita. See you later. So that's kind of what the 3 circles represent. In the center is what you're actually teaching. In the second circle are the things that you use to back up your big idea. And everything else is to build your authority and drive traffic. That's really what it is all about. All right, guys, I'm going to end the training right now. Amazingly, the training I did earlier was also exactly 45 minutes long. So I appreciate you being here. I'm going to complete it and hopefully it will magically show up on the Facebook group and you can watch it and everybody else who missed it can watch it as well. Thank you so much for being here or being here again. Mwah. Have a great night, everybody.